Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Where I am in Spain, it is Sunday morning. It is 10 o'clock a.m., 10 a.m. and it's a very hot day again here in Spain. That's where I'm based in Europe. It's hot, but a little cooler because it's quite cloudy. It's 8 degrees, still on your we've got our floods with the heat at the moment. Anyway, that is what happens in the summer in Spain, but of course it's probably getting worse due to global warming, etc. Anyway, here we are. It's a glorious day because just as an aside, England won the football last night. So if, like me, you are an England supporter, you'll be quite happy this morning, even though it was another nerve-wracking game. It's never much fun watching England play, is it? It's like you never. We were saying, it would be nice, wouldn't it? To watch a match where we just sailed through it, and got a comfortable lead early on, and then just could sit back a little bit. Would be nice. Anyway, that never happens with England. You've got to be a bit of a masochist to support England, I think. Anyway, that's not what we're going to talk about in this video. We're here to talk about Ann Widdecombe, and the developments in the case. So anybody who doesn't know, who hasn't been following this case with me, maybe this is the first time you've seen it. You may not be, you may not even know who Ann Widdecombe is. Ann Widdecombe is, well, an ex-politician, I would say, really, and also a media personality. She was a British MP. She's been in government. She's been in the European Parliament, but she hated the European Parliament. She was very instrumental in Brexit and, in Britain departing from Europe. Very controversial figure in the sense of strong views. The people call that controversial. She is a conviction politician, or she was a conviction politician, whether you agreed with her or not. And I probably disagreed with her on virtually everything as far as political things were concerned. She believed in it. She believed in, she had firm belief that what she was doing was right. And on the plus side, a very striking personality, a very uniquely British, eccentric. To me, she was quintessentially British. She's a little bit quirky, a little bit eccentric, dogmatic. People have referred to her as a battle axe. I think she quite liked that nickname. Not nickname, but that description, because she was tough cookie. In Spanish, we have an expression, pasta dura, hard pasta. Like how we say tough cookie in English. In Spanish, they say to be from hard pasta. So Ann Widdecombe definitely es de pasta dura, very tough, like to be too tough as old boots. That's the sort of expression that is in Spanish. So yeah, love her or hate her, she definitely had her views. So she was a very committed Christian, almost puritanical Catholic when she converted to Catholicism. She was in the Church of England. She didn't like all that woke stuff. She's very anti-woke. She didn't like women being ordained, those kind of things. She was a traditional, so that's a bit sort of, quite often strong women like Anne and Mrs. Thatcher and those types of women, that they don't actually do anything for women. Do you know what I mean? They're there as strong women in public life, but they're not very sympathetic towards women. Like Mrs. Thatcher never really promoted any women in her cabinet or anything like that. Anyway, she was very like Mrs. Thatcher, Ann Widdecombe. You might not agree with her politics, but you would admire her strength, her work ethic, her tenacity, her honesty. I mean, she was who she was. She didn't say things to get votes or to make friends and influence people. She just said what she actually really thought. A lot of people didn't like her because she had quite strong views on marriage, that it should be between a man and a woman. This is very similar to Mrs. Thatcher's views, like homosexuality was a mental illness as far as Mrs. Thatcher was concerned. And I think Ann Widdecombe was on that side of things, which is a bit uncomfortable. But I like to remember her because she appeared on Strictly Come Dancing. She showed she was a good sport. She allowed herself to be sort of dragged around the dance floor by Anton Dubek, and she, gave a lot of pleasure to a lot of people. And people voted for her, and she came second in Celebrity Big Brother. So to do those kind of things, to win yourself over to the public, even though you've got strong views, which when you've got strong views, there's always someone who won't agree with you. The other thing is she was anti-fox hunting. She's an animal lover. She did a documentary where she went and interviewed Mick Philpott, who turned out to be a child killer who ended up murdering 6 of his own children by setting a fire at his council house in a bid to get a bigger house. She went and interviewed him and told him exactly what she thought of him. This was before he'd murdered his children. But he was like just a layabout, never worked. The state was keeping him and his children. He had 2 wives. He's just a horrible person. Anyway, he's in prison now. He's in Wakefield prison, in Monster Mansion. So he is serving a life sentence. But it won't be that long before he's up for parole, I don't think. Anyway, she stood up to him. So she was little, but she was feisty. And yeah, it's funny because all the eulogies that are coming out about her, and most people who actually met her, whether they were on her side of the political divide or not, all say she was actually a very kind person. Even sort of left-wing people are saying that, and she was the furthest extreme, the other way of left-wing that you could get. But people have commented about her kindness, etc. And even, not that I like Dan Mutton, I can't bear him, but he is, of course, gay. He says that she wasn't anti-gay. She was a very good friend to him when he was going through a bad time, etc. So I don't know. I didn't know Anne. As I say, my positive memories of Anne, she's been on the TV ever since I was a kid, really. Ann Widdecombe's always been around in my life, one way or another, because I've always taken an interest in politics. And then she moved into the social sort of, more TV personality role. Whatever people say about her, she certainly was a force majeure, or a force of nature. That is certainly something about Anne. Anyway, so of course this terrible news came through this week. Oh God, it feels like it's ages ago now, but it was actually only, I think, Thursday or Friday morning that the news came through that Anne had died. And then later that day, it was announced that she'd been murdered in her own home. She's 78 years old. So it reminds me a little bit of the Nancy Guthrie case. This is an elderly woman living alone in an isolated property, a big isolated property. Anne lived on the edge of Dartmoor. I've got her actual village up here somewhere. Haytor in Devon. So, and we're going to have a look at that sort of geographically. And, but yeah, alone with her cat. So is this a burglary gone wrong? I mean, well, first of all, she was found dead. And it seems to me that it was assumed that she'd had an accident when she was first found. Then they realised she had blunt force trauma to her head. She had been murdered. Terrible head injuries. And she had now it's coming out that she probably laid there for 24 hours before she was found. But we're going to go through the timeline. Anyway, there were very quick developments in this case. Somebody was arrested pretty quickly. 26-year-old British white male. Now they're got to be at pains to announce ethnicity and nationality, so there's not riots in the stupid country that the UK has become, where people go off rioting before they even know what the actual situation is. And ironically enough, some people might say that Ann Widdecombe helped to fuel all that hatred that we have in Britain at the moment, but other people would say no. But she certainly, I think she was a divisive character. People are saying she wasn't, but I think she was. She was very anti-immigrant, but that's an opinion that she's entitled to have. I don't think she ever advocated violence against immigrants. So don't think she ever advocated violence. So, that's good. But, for me, Brexit was a disaster. So I can't agree with Anne at all on anything to do with Brexit or Europe. But there's other things I agree. I agree with her on the fox hunting, the outrage about fox hunting. There's other things, her church, sort of her faith. But, it's funny. I wonder how she felt about the Pope, because, of course, she converted to become a Catholic, and apparently she was, a puritanical Catholic. But of course, the Pope is very for immigration, isn't he? Because his parents were immigrants themselves. So I don't know how she would have thought about Pope Leo. We'll never know now. Anyway, we're going to talk about all those things. So this guy was arrested, 26-year-old, who lived not far away from Anne. He was arrested, but he was then released. Not long after, and the police announced that they were not considering him as part of the investigation. So it was back to square one. Who had murdered Ann Widdecombe, this elderly woman, in her own home? Anyway, now somebody else has been arrested. Again, the police are at pains to say it's a British white male. And he's 28 years old, this suspect. I hope, have they got the right person this time? So this is what we have to remember, because look at what happened with the other one. And, I said that last time. We always have to remember that just because someone's arrested does not mean they're the person who did it. They're arrested on suspicion of murder. That gives the police time to question them. They have a certain amount of time, don't they? Anyway, with the previous guy, it was decided he actually had nothing to do with it. So with this guy, it could end up the same. So we've got to remember that. That's a caveat when we're talking about this. A man has been arrested, a 28-year-old man, but he has not been charged yet. So could end up like the other one. But the interesting thing about this is where he's been arrested. So he's not local. He's been arrested in a place that is over 4 hours away from where Anne was found murdered. So that can mean one of two things. Either he is from this other place and he had travelled specifically 4.5 hours to go and murder Anne. That sounds like a targeted attack, doesn't it? But of course, the other possibility is that's where he was arrested. That doesn't mean say that's where he lived. He could have fled the area. He could live in the area near Anne, and he could have fled to, maybe he's got family or friends in North Yorkshire where he's fled to. So we have to remember that. We don't know the circumstances. He was arrested at an address in North Yorkshire. Now, that does not mean that was his address. Do you see what I'm saying? He could have fled there, could be a friend's house, could be family's house. So we can't jump to conclusions, that he was not local just because he wasn't arrested locally. I just want to say that. We don't know yet. So apparently there's going to be a police press conference later on today. So we may find out more about that. And, I just hope and pray for everyone concerned, because poor Anne's family, God knows what they're going through. But, it'd be a relief, won't it, when someone's actually charged with this awful murder. Because until then, as far as we know, this might not be the perpetrator, and the real perpetrator might be still out there. So these are the things we're going to talk about. First of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Stop whatever you're doing, please, and like the video. Thumbs up on the video. A lot of people don't do it. I don't mean because they don't like it. Just don't think to do it. I know that, sometimes I forget when I'm watching other people's podcasts. If I'm watching it and I'm enjoying the video, I always have to try and remember to like, because that is a way you can a free way you can show your appreciation of a video. Subscribing is also free. I'm now on over 8,000 subscribers for my 2 channels. Thank you so much. But it's completely free to subscribe. And then also it's important to press the notifications bell. Now there are different ways. When you press the notifications bell, you can, if you don't like all the, sometimes it can be irritating, can't it, when posts are coming through saying, "Oh, new video from Vicky Marie Chats, new video." And I'm sure people like I do with other podcasters sometimes think, "Oh God, not another new video." So you turn off the you can turn off the notifications button just like that. Just because you press notifications doesn't mean that's it forever. So or you can put it on select notifications, or when you get notification you can just put it to watch later. But that's important, because the other thing that I think people do, and I know I do it, if you're following a certain podcaster, YouTuber, depending on where you are in the world, I mean, I have followers all over the world. So there may be followers in America or Australia that maybe aren't interested in this case, just as there may be followers in the UK or in Spain that aren't interested in maybe an American case or whatever. So, you can pick and choose. So I think what happens is a video will come up, won't it? And you look at your notification and you think, oh, that's the Nancy Guthrie case, for example. Oh, yeah, I'm interested in that. You go on and watch the video. Or you look at it and you think, oh, that's a case in Australia. I'm not really interested in that. So, so you are in control of your notifications, of your subscriptions. But they are free ways you can help, not only me, but all YouTubers. And it is a big help. If you grow your subscribers, it helps in so many ways. Leaving a comment is a free way that you can help the podcasters that you like, because that all helps towards the algorithm. Anyway, then special thank you. Of course, some of you go further. You buy Ko-fis, or you join and become members, or you've bought merchandise in my shop, which is on my Ko-fi page. I'm going to just put up, I've got the banner there, but I will put up my Ko-fi page just briefly. And I am so grateful for that, for those of you that go that little extra mile to help out my channel. Thank you. Because all these contributions, they help, with equipment, but also streaming costs, and the design studio that I use to make my thumbnails, and did all the They just help in every way. So thank you so much to all of you that go that little bit further. But the most important way, of course, you can help my channel if you want to. If you don't want to, that's fine. Go and help somebody else's channel, though. You know, you should appreciate the podcasters that you like. If you don't particularly like me, so you don't want to appreciate me, that's fine. But yeah, I hope you're appreciating some podcaster out there. Because we really do rely on the viewers. That's what makes YouTube channels, is the viewers and the community. And my channel is a community based channel. There's no AI in my videos. It's not, you know, just a robot talking. And some people like that and some people don't. Some people quite like to hear a robot talking. They don't want any waffle or any, you know, real person in there. That's fine, but that's not what you get on my channel. So that's just mine is Vicky Marie Chats. That's exactly what we're doing. We're chatting, aren't we? We're chatting, just as if we were sat in the pub chatting, but we're doing it over the internet. Okay, so I'm going to take my banner off. I'm going to say hello to everybody, and then I'm going to get on with it. Take the banner off. So yes, hello you lovely lurkers out there, those of you who like to watch the lives but don't like to chat. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you. And of course, thank you to Replay Crew. So those of you who don't get a chance to watch the live but will watch the live replay, thank you again. And there's a few of you in the chat. Let's see who's actually put their head over the parapet. Hi, Anne Smith. Yes, absolutely evil. I'll tell you what, whoever has done this to Ann Widdecombe, who at the end of the day, doesn't matter if you believe in her political views, it's nothing to do with that. The fundamental thing that has happened here is a 78-year-old woman, 78, and as much as formidable as Anne was, she was 78 and not in, you know, her peak of health. Do you know what I mean? I mean, she was fine, but you know what I'm saying. So for a 28-year-old man, whatever the reason, whether this is politically motivated, whether it's someone she knew, whether it's just some nutcase, what a horrible thing for a 28 years old. That's like the peak of your fitness and things, isn't it? You know, to go, what a man, eh? What a man. You know, call yourself a man. Bloody hell, to kill a defenseless, really, 78-year-old woman, 5'1", she was, tiny. I mean, she was substantial in the sense that she wasn't a frail, skinny little thing, but still small, elderly. It's just horrible to hurt vulnerable people, whatever. It doesn't matter how much you don't like somebody. For a 28-year-old man to hit a 78-year-old woman over the head so hard that she dies, you just can't get your head around it. And I just think, what do they think that makes them a man? Do you know, years ago, sorry, I'm just going to do a bit of waffle here, but it's made me remember. When I worked at Ladbrokes years ago, and a man that I worked with there, a manager there, he didn't like his job. He didn't like it, but he did it because he had a family to support. He used to be a footballer. He was quite a famous footballer, actually. I can't mention his name because, you know, I don't know if he's still alive or, you know, it's not fair to actually mention his name. But he was from a footballing family. His father was a legendary footballer for Manchester United. And this manager, he had a brief success in football, but he got an injury and he had to come out of football. But he played for Man United sort of briefly. And he ended up being a manager at Ladbrokes. And I was at the time a cashier. I was his cashier. Anyway, I remember him saying to me that he'd got into a discussion with some family member. who, interestingly enough, he was like a bad boy, you know, he would go out robbing people and stuff like that. And he said, I said to him, you think that makes you a man? What makes you a man is getting up every day, going to work, to a job that you don't even like, to support your family. That's what makes you a man, not breaking into other people's houses and taking things that they've worked hard for. And that stuck with me, what he said. It's exactly right. These idiots, if this ends up being a burglary gone wrong, if this is someone that's thought he can just go and take something from somebody else, you know, the entitlement of it's terrible, isn't it? You know, because they can't be asked getting a job themselves. Oh no, that's, you know, won't get out of bed for that money. You know, that's so what they'll do is go and take it from somebody else, and often with violence. Now, I don't know that this is what's happened in Ann's case. We don't know what the reason is. It could have been a burglary gone wrong. But it's, you know, it'll all depend what comes out in the wash, isn't it? It's a way to go from Yorkshire to Dartmoor to commit burglary. You know, but as I say, he may have lived around by and been arrested in Yorkshire doesn't mean to say that's where he's from. That might have been just where he fled from. But yeah, they think, you know, they're like, you know, Bobby Big Balls or whatever, because they go round and attack sort of 78-year-old women. Ooh, what a man, what a man. You know, it just makes me angry. And I just remember this manager saying that to me. What makes you a man is what you do for your family. Sometimes you get up, you go to work for a job that you don't really like, but you've got to support your family. That's what makes you a man. And that's what my dad did. He got up every day. He got on his bike. He never drove, my dad. He got on his bicycle and he cycled from Chorlton-cum-Hardy in Manchester to Old Trafford to Trafford. So it was like an hour's cycling, at least an hour there, an hour back, whatever the weather. That's what he did, and he did that for his family, and that's what makes a man. Anyway, sorry, I've ended up sort of, you know, holding forth as usual. Hi, Sean. Yeah, but apparently, Sean, they have got images, but they've decided not to show them yet. Now, maybe at the police conference later they do, or maybe when they charge this guy. But don't. So I think the thing is at the moment, though, that if this is the right guy that they've got this time, what it'll be about now is the court case, won't it? You know, so as soon as they find, so first of all, it's about establishing the facts of what happened. Then it's about apprehending the culprit. Then it's about preparing the case, you know, preparing for trial. So we may not see those images until the actual trial, because that quite often happens, especially, you know, we don't have like the discovery phase like they do in America. So quite often we don't find out anything until the actual trial, and then they start to release images, videos and things, like in the Preston Davy trial we saw that happening. So yeah, we may not get to see these, or they might do, we'll see. No, they've not given the details yet. Oh, is it North Yorkshire? Anyway, we'll check that in a minute. It's Yorkshire anyway. Hi, Kelly. Yeah, if he's fled from sorry, no, not from Yorkshire to Devon, but from Devon to Yorkshire. If that's what he's done. Now, as I say, two scenarios here. Either he's from Yorkshire and he's travelled all the way to Devon just to commit this crime, which suggests that it was a targeted attack, or he is local to Devon, but he's fled to Yorkshire to a friend's house or family's house or whatever to escape, you know, being caught. So they're the two things we don't actually know yet. Hey, Darren. That's interesting. Black Volkswagen Golf Mark 4 spotted beforehand, parked oddly, spotted by a local garage or mechanic. There's been a lot of talk about a car, and Nigel Farage has had quite a lot to say about it. You know, he's sort of, I mean, I don't know where he's getting his information from, but, you know, I don't know where he's got his information from, Nigel Farage, but he kept talking about a car. Now, I've got Sky News on in the background, so I'll keep following the breaking news because in case they do release any more details of this suspect. But I think the police conference that's coming up may even come on while I'm on live, in which case I'll cover it live. But whenever it comes on, I will be showing it to you. So at some point today, you know, I've got things, but, you know, I'd love to just sit, to be honest, sometimes think, oh, it'd be nice to have a whole day where I could just sit on stream and talk about things that come up. But sadly, today's not that day. Right. Okay. So let's have a look. Was it North Yorkshire, South Yorkshire? Now this is interesting because they're still saying there's no that's terrorism related, but in the update, Devon and Cornwall police said we were supported by counter-terrorism policing, North East and South Yorkshire police. And it was South Yorkshire police who carried out the arrest on behalf of Devon and Cornwall police. So why were they supported by counter-terrorism policing? And don't forget, terrorism can be right-wing terrorists or left-wing terrorists. That's not necessarily Islamists either. You know, was it Jo Cox? I think she was an MP that was murdered by a far-right group. That was a terrorist attack. So, you know, I think straight away when we hear terrorist, we think of Islamic terrorists, don't we? So we don't know that. Anyway, they've said he's a white British male, but he could be, you know, someone who just doesn't agree with Anne's policies, or it may be nothing to do with terrorism. But let's have a look at this BBC. I'm going to put this article up because, why were they supported by the terrorism police, counter-terrorism police, if it's not a terrorist attack? Or maybe they just weren't sure if it was or not, you know. Let's see. This is a BBC article. So yeah, man arrested on suspicion of murder of Ann Widdecombe. There she is, holding forth. Of course, lately she's been a member for Reform UK. The suspect is a white British national. He's now in police custody. Anne, a former Conservative minister turned Reform UK spokesperson, was found dead with serious injuries. And we understand they're head injuries, but again, it hasn't been clarified by the police. And she was found at 11:40 a.m., I presume, on Thursday at her home in Hayter, Devon. And police believe she was attacked almost 24 hours earlier. That's very sad, isn't it? You know, I don't know why. I know it doesn't matter. I know it doesn't matter if, you know, once you're dead, it doesn't matter if you're there for an hour or a year, really, does it to you? But it's sad to think of her in her beloved home, and her cat would have been there, and what did the cat wonder what the hell was going on? I mean, it's just horrible, isn't it, to think of? lying there in your own home after a ferocious attack. And was she even dead? You know, just did he leave her for dead? Do you know what I mean? It's just horrible. What a horrible person. You know, maybe it was a burglary gone wrong. Maybe if even if the burglar fled, if they would have maybe rang anonymously, rang the police or ambulance or whatever, maybe Anne could have been saved. So it's just horrible, isn't it? Just a horrible person. So a man who was 26 had been arrested earlier in Newton Abbot, but he was released on Saturday, after which police said he was no longer part of the investigation. So this latest arrest took place at an address in South Yorkshire, police say, approximately 430 kilometres from Ann's Devon property, 270 miles away. So yeah, if he was arrested where he actually lived, he'd had to travel to do this. But as I say, we have to remember, doesn't mean say he lived there, it just means that's where he was arrested. Now, he could have turned up at a friend's house and confessed, and that, you know, they could have rang the police and to turn himself in. You know, we don't know, do we? But then Devon and Cornwall police said we were supported by counter-terrorism police in North East and South Yorkshire police, who carried out the arrest on behalf of Devon and Cornwall police. But then he says, at this time, there is still no information to suggest this is a terrorism-related incident, and as a force, we retain primacy of the investigation. This is a live and active investigation, and no further information will be issued tonight. So that was last night. So, of course, everyone was watching, well, all English people anyway, will have been watching the football. But they said they weren't issuing any more news last night. So apparently Anne's family has been informed of the latest updates, and a significant police presence remains around her property in Devon over the weekend, with forensic officers seen arriving outside Anne's home. You keep calling her Widdicombe. Fuck off, BBC. Do better. Her name's Anne. Anne. Don't call her Widdicombe. Drives me absolutely mad when these media things do this. Absolutely mad. Disrespect. Absolute disrespect. Oh, sorry, something's beeping at me. Let's see. I think somebody might have bought me a coffee. Oh, thank you, Sean. You're so generous. Thank you. So kind. Sean has sent me a PayPal. Thank you very much. Very kind. You're always so kind. Thank you. But yeah, why do they keep calling her Widdicombe? Anyway, then people, including so people are gathering and laying flowers at her property. I love those sheep emojis, Kelly. I love those sheep emojis. Yeah, it's again. Oh, so remember in the Nancy Guthrie case, you know, this does I know it's different from the Nancy Guthrie case. This is an American case. An 84-year-old woman disappeared from her home. We don't even know where she is, but there was blood all over the porch. So we're assuming something terrible happened to her. And that we're 6 months on in that case. Nothing, you know, we're no further on, are we? You know, we've got CCTV from the doorbell camera, but it hasn't helped, or it doesn't seem to have helped. Anyway, people laid tributes there, didn't they? But somebody took them away. So, I mean, I suppose, you know, anyway, I'm not going into the Nancy Guthrie case. I'm here to talk about Anne. But I do feel there's similarities here. This is a vulnerable elderly woman living alone. This is what it comes down to for me. Any of you who've got elderly parents, or if you're elderly, you know, we all we hope we become elderly one day, because the alternative is to die too young, isn't it? So, old age is a privilege in a lot of ways, but the other problem with it is you do get more and more vulnerable, especially if you're a woman who lives alone with your cat, you know. So people, including Reform UK leader Nigel Farage, were also seen laying memorial flowers near her home at Dartmoor National Park. Farage paid tribute to God, you keep calling her Widdicombe, Anne, telling reporters that she was a remarkable individual and the fiercest defender of free speech. But she certainly was a remarkable individual. And then Anne's longtime driver, Peter Horrell, also laid flowers near the scene on Saturday, telling the BBC he just could not believe what had happened. She was a great lady, very kind. Everyone says she was kind. It's funny, isn't it? Everybody from whatever end of the political spectrum who actually met her. I mean, I didn't meet her, so I don't know. You only see this sort of feisty right-wing persona, but everyone who met her, I'd say even political opponents, said she was very kind. And he said, if you asked her a question, you'd get an answer, no mucking about. I think she was definitely a straight talker. That's another positive. So yeah, now we're going to have a look at the timeline. So I still think it's very strange that her management team announced her death on Friday morning. But no, there was no suggestion then, was there, that this was anything but a natural death? But then just shortly after that, the police declared it was a murder investigation. It was a massive shock and ruled out terrorism. So this is where she lived. I think you can see that picture. I need to get this up on my phone actually, so I don't have to keep going backwards and forwards. Very remote property. See, this is the other thing, personally, I'm sure it was beautiful. I know it was a beautiful house, beautiful setting, but to me, just as a 78-year-old living on my own, I'd be terrified at night. Absolutely terrified. Just so accessible as well. Easily accessible. Just so easily accessible to bad people. And sadly, there are a lot of bad people in this world. And, Anne, obviously, she looked like she's got money. She has got money. She to buy a house like that, buy that sort of property, obviously, clearly, she's got money. So she's a target, isn't she? Whether this is a robbery gone wrong or not, she's a target to a little old lady. But I mean, I know she was a feisty little old lady, but she's still a little old lady, 78 years old, living on her own in a remote property. She's bound to and likely to have valuables around. So she is a target. So I don't know if she had alarms, if she had, CCTV. So we don't know all those details yet. Now, the other thing is this is thought to have happened in the middle of the day. Now, that to me is strange as far as a burglary is concerned. It was 12:30 p.m. they think it happened around that time. Well, when they say 12:30 p.m., they mean lunchtime, don't they? I'm not very good. Because here in Spain, we would say mediodía, or 12:30 p.m. I was thinking, that's not 12:30 in the morning, is it? That would be 12:30 a.m. So it happened literally in the middle of the day. That's unusual for burglaries, unless they thought that she was out or whatever. Burglaries normally take place when people are out, or in the early hours of the morning. The prime time for a burglary is about 3 in the morning, isn't it? Between 3 and 4 in the morning. That's when normally people are in their deepest sleeps. Maybe between 2 and 4, something like that. So seems, to brazenly walk into someone's house. Or were they invited in? Is this somebody that I knew? Because I think that's still a possibility. And Ian Duncan Smith, who's another politician who used to be the leader of the Tory party many years ago, he wasn't very good. He said, I'm just telling you what he said, that as far he'd heard, that it was somebody who was known to her. Then we've got all these stories in the Sun newspapers saying that some man turned up there with hiking boots on in the middle of the night. And, they're always saying about social media speculating, but Ian Duncan Smith, Sun newspaper, or Nigel Farage, they're all speculating. Seems like they don't count as social media. It's only us social media people. We should be ashamed of speculating. They're speculating left, right, and centre. Anyway, so personally, I want to wait and see what the police say. I mean, I will speculate a bit. I think it's difficult not to speculate whatsoever, because we want to understand what happened to this person. So Sean says her house is in a fork in the road, so she had a road each side. Yeah, she's right. You can see the roads, can't you? She's sort of, there was roads that could go. So none of her neighbours could see her yard. Yeah. I think somebody to drive up there, they were going to her house, weren't they? Someone's gone there deliberately, either to rob her, or because they knew her, or to kill her. I don't think anyone's gone back there by accident, have they? I think somebody's gone there deliberately for whatever reason. The only question is, what reason? Is it to deliberately do harm to Anne? Or did they have a meeting with Anne? Was it someone who knew her? Or was it to rob her? But at 12:30 in the afternoon when she's in? Why would you do that? Anyway, people do crazy things. So desperate people do desperate things. Okay, so it's just we've talked a lot about her actual career, so I won't go into that. Right, just want to show you on the map now. I did get it up on the map. I need to put down. I've always got too many windows open. Yeah, sorry, I'm just putting windows down. Okay, so yeah, you can see on this map. Well, you could see. Where's it gone? Let me just. So from I did it to South Yorkshire, but was it North Yorkshire? Honest to God, my memory is terrible. I've got memory like a fish. Anyway, it was Yorkshire, so never mind. Let's just look at this map. So 4 hours 36 minutes. So it's not just up the road where this is where the guy's been arrested. Haytor is where Anne's house was, and here this is South Yorkshire, but it may well have been North Yorkshire. Was it South Yorkshire or North Yorkshire? I've forgotten it already. I've forgotten already. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. I'm probably offending people in Yorkshire because I'm sure to people in Yorkshire, it's a very important distinction. It is South Yorkshire. It is so from Yorkshire. It's 431 kilometres according to Google Maps, and it will take you 4 hours and 36 minutes. So either this person lives in South Yorkshire and has driven all that way to go and attack Ann Widdecombe, or they live close by Anne, and they've driven all that way to flee from what they've done. Maybe they've got a friend in South Yorkshire or family that they've, fled to. So yeah, but whichever way you look at it, that's a big distance, isn't it? It's a big distance to travel to attack someone or to flee as well. But I suppose if you were fleeing, you just go wherever you thought somebody might help you to avoid detection. But the forensics are there at Anne's house still. Thing is, let's hope that they're getting plenty of DNA. It's DNA that will do it, of course. Yeah, it is Sean. It's South Yorkshire. Hi, Daniel. Happy Sunday. Yeah, happy Sunday. Yeah. So that reminds us, do you remember, I don't know, people who follow true crime and have been following my channel, the Tepe murders over in America? Monica Tepe, her ex-husband, waited 10 years for his vengeance, didn't he? But he travelled many hours to go and kill Monique and her husband Spencer, her new husband Spencer, just like he must have been simmering all the way there. Because that's the thing you've got to remember. If sometimes people kill in the spur of the moment, don't they? They get mad about something, they get angry, and they'll go off and kill someone or attack them. Quite often it's when they're in the same house as them at the time, isn't it? And an argument ensues. But to drive, if it turns out to be the case that this man has driven for over 4.5 hours to get to Anne's house to hurt her, that's a lot of rage to sustain for 4.5 hours. You think about yourself. We all get angry, don't we? I get really angry sometimes. I can't hold my anger for longer than 10 minutes, never mind 4.5 hours. I'm just not that sort of person. I am perhaps a little bit quick to anger sometimes, but I'm also very quick to subside from anger. It's how could you keep your anger going for over 4.5 hours? You might suffer. I'm going to sort this out. You could imagine it. I've done that with partners. I mean, not to murder them, but when you're really angry, right? I'm going to sort this out. And the first 10 minutes, you're like all fired up and that driving there. And then, like, if you've got a distance to go, then it starts to abate, doesn't it? It's like, oh, well, I don't think I should go around there. Reason comes back to you. So to sustain all that rage that it takes to kill someone, because it takes a lot of rage to kill someone. It's not an easy thing to do, even in the heat of the moment, even if someone's been really horrible to you and done really terrible things to you. Killing a person is not an easy thing for most people to do. You get some people who probably find it quite easy, like psychopaths and serial killers. But most normal human beings, it's just not, we're not built to kill people, except maybe in self-defense. So to sustain all that anger and rage for over 4.5 hours, if that's how it's happened, But as I say, it could be the other way around. He could live in the local area and he could have escaped to South Yorkshire. So, yeah, just think, how do you stay angry for over 4.5? How do you stay so angry? Yeah, Haytor is only a very small place, Sean, but it's not far from like Newton Abbot. That's a bigger place, so invested in Newton Abbot. So about 30 minutes. There are places, more populated places, but yeah, the village itself of Haytor is tiny. There's hardly anybody lives there. Yeah, it's very odd that someone has gone to Anne's house like that. Anyway, so we're going to have a look at the timeline now, and also we're going to look at that were exchanged from Anne, because Anne, on that day that the police think she was murdered, Anne was supposed to appear on a radio show or a TV show. She was supposed to be being interviewed. She was booked in. Wasn't she? And they were surprised when she didn't turn up. So these are the texts. Is everything okay? The texts reveal when Ann Widdecombe stopped replying after the suspected attack. So these were the texts earlier on in the day. Oh, amazing. Let me know if there's any issues. And then at 12:48, they contacted her and said, "Hi, Anne, could you join the Zoom now, please?" And she did not answer. You get a blue tick on WhatsApp if somebody's read your message. So see here, that had been read, that last message up at the top there. But when he sent the message, "Hi, Anne, could you join the Zoom now, please?" No blue ticks. Then they tried to call her at 12:53. No answer. "Hi, Anne, is everything okay?" No blue ticks. That was at 12:55. Voice call, no answer at 1:05. Voice call, no answer at 14 minutes past 1. And sadly, it seems that Anne was probably had been murdered by then. So somewhere in between 12:19 when she read this message, blue ticks, and then sometime shortly and before 12:48, Ann Widdecombe was murdered. Or likely that was when Anne was murdered. So that's illuminating that the police have agreed for these to be released. Let me just turn the sound down on this other thing. One sec. So yeah. So Ann Widdecombe stopped replying to messages minutes before police believed she was attacked. Now, did somebody maybe she did leave her door open? If she was living in a place like that where she felt safe, quite often in the daytime, people leave their doors open, don't they? A producer was discussing with her a scheduled appearance on Channel 5's Matt Allwright show on Wednesday afternoon. And in a WhatsApp conversation shared with ITV News, the producer is discussing with Anne. He's calling her Widdicombe as well. What is wrong with these journalists? They're so disrespectful. Details about the appearance and asks her to join the Zoom call from home. The conversation shows they were regularly exchanging messages between 12:14 and 12:19, but the last message that Anne sent at 12:19 said, "Received, panic over." A WhatsApp read receipt shows that Anne read a response sent at 12:19, but did not read any of the subsequent messages from the producer, with the first follow-up sent at 12:48. The producer attempted to call Ann numerous times, but received no answer. So these are the messages. So these were the messages earlier in the day at 12:14. Oh, not yet. I looked a few seconds ago. Oh, hi, they said they sent it to you, but maybe it's to the wrong email address. We spoke. Sorry for the confusion. I can see now that what I refused today was extra time. Old age is a terrible thing. And then he says, would you mind sending me the address you'd like to receive it from? And then she says, no problem. It's the usual one that you normally use. Then he said, that's strange. They did send it to that address at 9:20 this morning. I'll send it to you now. And then she says, received, panic over. So that was the conversation between them about the Zoom link for the interview she was going to do. And he says, amazing, let me know if there's any issues. And that is the last message that has the blue receive ticks at 12:19. And all the messages and phone calls after that were not answered. So it seems like Anne was still alive at 12:19, but then just half an hour later, she wasn't. Or she certainly wasn't capable of reading and replying to her messages. How sad is that? So that's what's given the police a timeline of, when they think this attack happened. So in the middle of the lunchtime. Now, if you think, let's suppose, I know it's speculation, but sorry, that's what we're going to do, just like everybody else is doing. Let's suppose that the perpetrator is this man who's been arrested and that he lives in South Yorkshire. So we've seen that it takes over 4.5 hours to get from South Yorkshire to where Anne lived. So if he, at some point around 12:30 is when he killed her, that means he probably left home at 8 o'clock that morning, isn't it, to get there for that time? He would have left South Yorkshire at round about 8 a.m., got to Anne's house for round about 12:30 p.m. And, why did he go there deliberately to kill her? Why? Was it political views? Sometimes we presume it's political views, but it's not, it turns out in the end it might not be anything that we thought. He may have known her, because we just don't know. And did she actually let him in? Because he was, her body was found in the house, so he was in the house. So did she let him in, or was the door just open? That's the other question, isn't it? Or did he break in? I mean, he could have broken in. I don't know what Anne's security was like, how good it was. But as I say, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I've got 3 dogs, one of which is a German Shepherd. I still wouldn't want to live in a place so remote as that on my own, even with the dogs. I'd be terrified. Yeah, you would think so, Kelly, that surely there would be some I think there are. The police do have some CCTV. They have said that they're not going to release it because they don't want to compromise any trial. So there is CCTV. There definitely is. But whether we may never get to see it until the trial. So, yeah, so very sad. Now, so then, 12:55 was the last message that the producer sent to Anne. And he said, hi, Anne, is everything okay? And then at 1:27 p.m., when Anne was supposed to be on the show, Matthew Allwright confirmed live on his show that Anne was scheduled as a guest, but she had not turned up. And then the show's production team, well, God bless them that they followed up, really. They were concerned about her because, listen, you get to know about people. You don't even have to know him that well. you know that there's people that you'll send a WhatsApp message to, and the 90% of the time they're going to reply immediately, especially if they've got an appointment with you for something like this interview that Anne had. Anne will not, she'll have probably appeared on these shows before. They probably, had contact before. She's reliable, Then you'll get other people who think, oh, well, such, they haven't replied, but you know what they're like. They've gone on a bender, or they've done this, or they've done that. Some people are unreliable with WhatsApp messages, aren't they? So it's good. It's all credit to the production team, because then they followed up with her agent. They were worried about her. So on Wednesday evening, the show's production team followed up with her agent, and on Thursday morning as well. And then they passed all the WhatsApp messages on to the police. So that is, so really, I think we can say that the production team of this show, they're the ones that contacted Anne's agent, and thank God for that, because how long would Anne have been lying there otherwise? Then, of course, it was the agents on Friday that put out that Anne was deceased, but there was no mention of a murder, or it's funny, isn't it? When I think about it now, I remember being shocked, but at the end of the day, she was 78. So you think, when a 78-year-old person dies, you don't think of murder necessarily immediately, do you? So if they announced, a 20-odd-year-old person had died unexpectedly, you'd be thinking, oh, what's happened there then? Wouldn't you? Like the football, there's very sadly a South African footballer who played in the World Cup, who's, was announced that he died, and straight away you think, because he's only in his 20s, think, oh, what's happened there? It's either have they been murdered, or have they deleted themselves, or, you don't think of, there you would maybe think of foul play, but when a 78-year-old dies, you just sort of automatically assume, it's sad really, that it will have been by natural causes. So the agent, Anne's agent, announced that on Friday morning, and of course all the eulogies were coming in, and this, that and the other, but nobody knew at the time, until the police then later on that day came out and said, oh, well, it's a murder inquiry. It's like, what? It's shock. Absolute shock. So Devon and Cornwall police believe that she was attacked on Wednesday around 12:30 p.m. And ironically, she was the ex-Tory prisons minister. She had very right-wing views on law and order. One of the things she got into trouble for was when she was Tory prisons minister, she insisted on pregnant prisoners being shackled when they went in to have their babies. That caused a big fuss at the time. But anyway, I mean, what do they think they're going to do? Run away? It was ludicrous, really, when you think about it. Do you think they're going to try and escape when they're just about to give birth and they're going into labour? Anyway, so she was not popular for that. She insisted on them being shackled. Anyway, so they believe she was attacked around 12:30 p.m. and you can see why now that we've looked at the text messages. We can see how they come up with that time. I don't believe she has been strangled, Sean. I believe it's blunt force trauma to the head. That's what's being said. But again, hasn't been confirmed by the police, so we have to, take that with a giant pinch of salt, really. But there was a lot of blood at the scene, put it that way. That definitely we do know. So, because initially it was thought she'd had an accident. I just feel with this case that the police, again, probably because she's an elderly woman living on her own, when they found her, they just assumed it was an accident. Because elderly people do fall over and bang their heads, fall downstairs, things like, So I think that this is just purely me speculating, and unashamedly, I wonder if initially they did think it was an accident, because I think it's unusual for someone's death to be announced and then afterwards it to be declared a murder inquiry. But was it that it was just assumed that she had fallen? Maybe there was no signs of a struggle or a break-in, you see. And then was it when they got on to the coroner, to the laboratory or wherever they take bodies to, and was it then the forensic pathologist who said, "Oh, hang on a minute, this is blunt force trauma. This is not from a fall." Just makes you wonder if that's the way it happened. But well, we'll find out sooner or later, I suppose. What else have I got? I think that might be more or less what I've got for you for now. And we're just waiting for more news. And I will bring that press conference. If I can't bring it to you live, I will certainly bring it to you later. So yeah, I think we've more or less. So yeah, it was 11:40 on Thursday. Officers were called to. I'm reading now. I think it's the Telegraph. I don't know which newspaper it is, but at least they're calling them Miss Widdicombe. At least they're not just calling her Widdicombe. So yeah, on 11:40 on Thursday, the 9th of July. Where's it gone? It's just jumped down that. I hate it when things jump down. I'll be reading an article and it just decides to update or do its own thing. It drives me. Oh, it won't even move now. Anyway, it was 11:40 when earlier that morning, a.m. What wasn't it? Suddenly, it was announced that the police had opened a murder investigation, and then at 17. Right, I think I'm back. I think I'm back in the room. I went off for a minute there. It just, as it does sometimes, just cut off for a minute, but I'm back now. So now I've forgotten what I was saying. But so, yeah, that's where we are. So what will today bring? So let's not get, they may have arrested this 28-year-old man. Oh, they're talking about on Sky News, but yeah, he's not been charged yet. Just like the other man didn't get charged. So it may turn out that they release him. So we have to remember that. It's not, a man's been arrested on suspicion of murder but not charged. I'm just going to have a look and see how long can they hold someone. I mean, they've still got a while yet. They're definitely know that. So, in the UK, for murder suspects, UK police can hold a person in a police station for 24 hours without, and this can be extended to 36 or even 96 hours. But for that, they need a magistrate's court approval. So they can only keep him in custody a limited time. 24 hours is the standard amount of time a suspect can be held. Well, he's been there. I'd say he's been, or unless he was arrested last night. Yeah, they're still not to the yeah. So let's suppose he was arrested last night at 10 o'clock or something. 24 hours. And then for 36 hours, a police superintendent can authorize it an extension to 36 hours for serious crimes. But for 96 hours, they must apply to a magistrate's court. And if it's under the Terrorism Act, they can hold someone up to 14 days. But that only applies to suspects arrested under the Terrorism Act. So basically, they've got 24 hours to interrogate this guy. You know, that's the basic thing that they've got. Then they can be authorised by their superintendent to extend to 36 hours. But if they want any more than that, they have to go to court to get the extension. Well, hopefully it won't come to that. Let's hope. I just hope this is the proper suspect. The thing is, in the murder inquiry, I suppose you are going to go through quite a few. The thing is, they arrest people on suspicion of murder because it just gives them time to question them. You know, they know they've got at least 24 hours. That's a way of getting, you know, in America, you need probable cause, don't you? Don't think we need that in the UK, do we? We don't have cause. You can arrest someone on suspicion of murder. You need an arrest warrant, obviously. So you need some reason that you're suspecting them. So that guy that was arrested and released, maybe he'd been seen in the area. Maybe his phone was one of the phones that pinged off the, the phone towers. Could even be, you know, somebody who just had a connection with Anne. Maybe someone who'd, you know, when they talked to the neighbours, one of the neighbours might have said, oh, yeah, she was at the grocery shop the other day and this guy had a go at her about her views. Do you know, it could be just something as simple as that. Somebody saying, you know, like it could be, oh, you know, oh, yeah, they had an argument about a parking space, or, oh, yeah, yesterday this guy called her this name. Or, you know, it could be something that just as simple as that has drawn the police's eye towards that person. Then they've brought him in for questioning, maybe taken his DNA, you know, maybe it didn't match with the DNA that they've got, or maybe he had a really good alibi. You know, that, yeah, maybe he did have a run-in with her a few days ago, weeks ago, or whatever, but he had an alibi for that time that, you know, when the police think that Anne was killed, maybe he was at work, you know, or with people who would, you know, testify that he was with them and it couldn't possibly have been him. So that's what they'll be doing with this guy. So we always have to remember that although they've arrested him, till he's actually charged, that doesn't mean to say that they've even got, you know, even yet got the right suspect, does it? So Ah. Now, Sean, it's interesting what you're saying because, of course, they always say murder cases follow the money, don't they? Who is Anne's next of kin? Well, she has no children. She has, I think, she's got nieces and nephews, or at least a niece or a nephew. And of course, Anne was a big supporter of animal charities and things. So I'm sure Anne will have a will in place. Maybe she's left all the money to the cat and dog shelter or the anti-fox hunting league. I mean, who knows? But I'm sure she'll have, some sort of thing in. And she had a brother, but her brother died. So he was a priest, I believe. So yeah, as far as actual relatives are concerned, next of kin, that would be her nieces. Let's have a look, actually. Well, she may have left her money to her friends. You just don't know. So money she could have left it to, I don't know, national trusts or something like that. I'm sure she will have that in order because Anne strikes me as a person that would be organised for that. I don't actually know who. I know she's definitely got either a niece, a nephew, or even nieces and nephews. But I don't know. So yeah, I don't know who. We don't know, who fortune is. She's got a lot of assets. Certainly, a lovely house there. So we to live in it after she'd been brutally murdered there. I don't know. You get it right on the market, wouldn't you? You just to get the houses sold. I was thinking about this family in Bedfordshire. Just arrested the father who killed his wife and his two children. They've arrested him in South Africa. They had a beautiful house. It was a sale. Who's going to wear? Where a mother and children have been murdered. Who's going to want to live there? And it's bad enough, even it's likely that if you're buying a house that's not a house, it's likely or possible somebody died in it at some point, but hopefully of natural causes. But where it's been like as a result of a violent act, I do believe personally. I do think that houses absorb energy, and all that bad energy. Do you know what I do feel in this world at the moment, and probably always has been? There's very satanic influences. The devil is out there, and the devil works through people. We can believe in God, and I believe in I believe in God, and I believe in the basic goodness of human nature. I really do. But also, the devil is out there, and he's always in people's ears, trying to get them to do bad things. And sometimes he succeeds. But anyway. Okay, so thank you very much, Sean, for the PayPal. Thank you all for watching. Please don't forget to leave your DNA on the like button, the subscribe button, and the notifications bell. And I will be back later when the police conference comes out or any other updates we get. And yeah, in the meantime, well done, England. And I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God go with you. Thank you so much. Thank you.